Hey guys, welcome back. We have holiday astrology that we need to get into for this week, and we've got a lot going on actually. Monday and Tuesday, as we start the week, I want to let you guys know up front, we're back in some of this more strong black moon energy. People could honestly be very emotionally sensitive, very triggered, especially in the context of other people, financial situations, group dynamics. There could definitely be some drama that's unfolding in social gatherings and stuff like that. So maybe just something to be aware of as you're going about your life out there. Now, another thing about this week, we have reached kind of a critical turning point in two different capacities. One, in terms of just like this year itself, the sun comes to a square with the nodes of the moon, destiny and karma, as we enter the week on Monday. And then on Tuesday, actually Christmas Eve, Jupiter and Saturn come into exact square in the sky. This is actually a three-part transit. The first part of this transit hit back in August, and there will be a follow-up to this transit that occurs in June of 2025. But this energy now, the energy of this past August, and again, that is up and coming for this future June right now, it's all related back to actually December of 2020 and a 20-year cycle that began then at 0 degrees of the sign of Aquarius between Jupiter and Saturn. This is a time of adjustment, you guys. This is a time of like fixing things, making changes, making decisions also that are very important in terms of the way that things are going to unfold going forward. Don't rush through things this week if you can help it. Make sure that you are applying a level of like wisdom and patience to your decision-making processes. The care and consideration we put into what we're engaged in right now and the changes that are happening right now specifically, and the redos that are happening right now also are gonna pay off, I think, probably in some big ways once we get through this next upcoming June. So wanted to, just put that out there to get started as well. But we got a lot to talk about, you guys. Tons of energy going on this week. Very strange, like, synergy of varying aspects hitting at the same time as well. So let's get into our report of the day, you guys. Take a look at all that we got going on this week, specifically Monday and Tuesday, and what perhaps we can expect as we move through our holiday season. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Monday, December 23rd, 2024. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. And if you guys stick with me until the end of this report, I have done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field from more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews, just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We're going to do that at the end. We have a busy week of astrology to get into, as I mentioned in my intro. A lot of things just maybe like coming to a head in some way, or coming to a point of no return also. I feel like that's just kind of another like significant theme that is presenting itself to me, and was as I was preparing for this report today. Like, in some ways, whatever we're going through this week, like knowing maybe that it's just like for the last time, and that it has to be, like, it can't continue to go on, whether it's something that we're like actively choosing or deciding, or whether it's just something that we inherently know, or that we just kind of like internally feel, even though we don't know why we feel that way. We're just at some type of like critical turning point, you guys, and it's a turning point, like a more like long-term turning point. Like, this is, I feel like, the type of stuff that's been like going on for a while. It could even be like traditions, or just like relationships, or like investments, like things that we've been maybe invested in or committed to or associated with or a part of, or just like always done, maybe just knowing somehow for some reason like it can't continue to go on, or at least not like that. But I do think that there's just a lot of like the last times coming through with the way that things are coming together this week. But also it's not for the worse either. It's because something new is beginning that will ultimately be better in a lot of ways, but there could just be sort of like a bittersweet nature to the feel or the vibe that's going on this week. Okay, so we've hit a critical turning point for a couple of reasons. It has to do with corrections, it has to do with decisions, As I mentioned in my intro, there's a very, very karmic nature to the way that things are coming together this week, and also not just this week, but just this period of time generally, the choices and decisions that we are making, the adjustments that we're making to ourselves and other things that we're involved in, they're having, I think, a more significant than normal impact on the trajectory of future events. Like, there is an importance on what we're doing now in relation to a future that has yet to unfold. So set that there, and I want to talk specifically about the transits now, why I'm saying that, and then what we've kind of like the basic way that things may feel for us throughout the week. And then as we get to the end, I'll focus more specifically on this Jupiter-Saturn transit. There's a lot to say about that. It is a significant transit when these two come together, and it does mark the quarter point in that transit. We have 4 harsh activations between Saturn and Jupiter that are going to occur over the course of this 20-year transit, approximately every 5 years or so. And of course, between this past August and this upcoming June, because of Jupiter's retrograde, we are getting a 3-part first quarter square. But it has to do with the Saturn Jupiter alignment that happened at 0 degrees of the sign of Aquarius, December 21st, 2020. And it's so interesting actually, because Pluto is at that same degree in the sky right now. So whatever began at that period of time, not only is it being empowered by the presence of Pluto there, but it could become very prominent. And there also is likely, like, anything that needs to be destroyed, okay, in order so that we can break free from these limitations and expand. When we're dealing with a Jupiter-Saturn square, think about it. Saturn, I mean, it's a very purposeful energy, and it has a lot to do with manifestation actually, and what we're building and what we're growing and expanding into. But the square dynamic of this energy, it's like a test. Like, it requires us to implement like what we've learned in the context of that energy building up to the square. So over the past 5 years, essentially, like, what have we learned about whatever it is that this next 20-year cycle of our lives is trying to teach us, and how are we going to implement that to overcome some limitations or blockages to growth or expansion somehow in association with whatever started then. It's like we've reached a point in time where it's time for us to overcome or to like graduate from one level of whatever this experience that began or started or like happened around December 2020 has been leading us towards. Like, now's the time for us to see what we've gained, what we've grown, what we've stepped into, and to make any adjustments to it, fix it in any type of way that we need to before we can move forward and like bring this thing to the midpoint, okay? Because that's what will come next. We have the first quarter square, which is a limitation, a restraint, an obstacle that needs to be overcome so that we can continue to grow and expand and manifest. The next point will be the opposition, when the opposition happens between Jupiter and Saturn. Then there will be a third quarter square approximately 5 years after that, and then approximately another 5 years, we will culminate that cycle, and we will have gone through a 20-year era of our lives where there was some specific theme that we were learning about or engaged in, or that defined our experience somehow. So actually, you know, wherever you happen to have 0 degrees of Aquarius in your own personal birth chart, whatever house that is in, whatever planets you might have right there, over this course of this next 20 years, and also with Pluto being at 0 Aquarius right now, also where that alignment happened, and us being on the verge of entering the age of Aquarius. Don't forget, I always say, like, the whole nature of this channel, the whole like message and theme of this channel is about narrating the shift of the ages, being very aware that we are going through a paradigm shift right now, that we're moving into the age of Aquarius, and taking into consideration all of these aspects and all of these transits and all the changes that they're making, microcosm, macrocosm, inside us and in the world around us now, and like how those small changes, like day after day after day, ultimately over time ripple and extrapolate into this greater overall paradigm shift. It's like how the activations and the transits that are like activating the codes right now ultimately is leading us into this new age. we're watching the progression of energy that is taking us in that direction. And if you pay attention, it makes a lot of sense how this transition is happening. And we have had so much focus on the 0 degrees of Aquarius right now being the new foundational energy. When we're talking about a transit, a conjunction, a 20-year cycle between Jupiter and Saturn, this is about building. As I said a minute ago, this is about growing, and this is about expansion. Saturn is the master builder energy. It's about foundations. It's about stabilizing things. It's about structure. Jupiter, of course, is the planet of growth and expansion. And at 0 degrees of Aquarius, this is going to have everything to do with being in alignment with authentic potential. And it's also going to be expressed through the air element. Right now, also interestingly enough, we have Jupiter retrograding through Gemini, another air sign, and Saturn's in the sign of Pisces, all about beliefs. Ideas and beliefs about things are one of the major aspects of reality, I think, that is being altered right now in order to like be more conducive to this future path of growth and what it is that we're really building going forward. I think a lot of minds are going to be, and belief systems as well, are going to be foundationally changed once we get through this 3-part transit, get into June, and start moving forward through this next 5 years until we get to that next critical activation point between these two planets and they come into the opposition. So with Pluto currently being at the same degree that these planets made their square, I do think come this summer, it's going to become more and more evident that things are really changing and we are moving into this Aquarian age. I think the emergence of it is going to become more tangible, more perceivable, just in kind of like the daily, everyday reality and environment. Also, new ideas and belief systems, like I said, and also technology, medicine, energy, new forms of energy, and an emphasis on the air, space, like ether, and an expansion into the cosmos as well. And I also think that there's going to be a growing kind of respect for and consideration of and just a collective understanding and acceptance of astrology as we move forward throughout the course of this next 15 years of this Jupiter-Saturn cycle. And Pluto's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years as well. We're literally talking about a very, very Aquarian theme dominant next 15 to 20 years, where a lot of the lessons that we are learning are associated with the Aquarian energy, and that same like concept is where the power is centralized as well. So I think that we're going to be learning a lot about the power of our mind, the power of our thoughts, and how to use them responsibly in the most like effective way as we move forward in time from essentially like this point forward. With all of this activity centralized around the 0 degree of Aquarius, generically, collectively right now, it's all about radical changes that are happening to realign us with this like path to organic, authentic, cosmic growth and expansion. The other aspects that are happening this week alongside this Sun square the nodes, which is happening on Monday, okay, of course, again, that's like reaching this point of the nodes, that's destiny and karma. The north node is the destiny point, the south node is this point of karmic release, currently in the signs of Aries and Libra, with the sun in Capricorn this week coming into that cardinal square. This is another aspect that's talking about reaching this like critical turning point, very karmic nature brought to us by the sun squaring the nodes. We have this also happen twice a year. And of course, aside from that, with the Jupiter-Saturn square, that's also another like karmic energy again, but it's related to this larger cycle. We also have the lingering Chiron black moon exact opposition that's going on that is going to be accentuated by the moon's placement Monday and Tuesday. Again, we really may be in some quite like darker or just like more vulnerable, raw, sensitive, emotional states Monday and into Tuesday specifically. We're in black moon energy. Each month, twice a month, we get enhanced black moon energy with the black moon in the sign of Libra right now. this is another one of those indications that is telling us that other people may be triggering us, especially in the context of some old wounds and what we know that we just can't deal with anymore. But this is in the opposition to Chiron, healing karmic wounds, breaking self-sabotaging cycles. Chiron actually stations direct this week. On the 29th, Chiron will station direct right after having this opposition to the black moon, which is another cycle. If you guys watched my videos from last week, I talked in depth about this particular transit, and this was another cycle that began in the year 2020. 2020 is essentially the entire year. February of 2020 was when we had the black moon Chiron conjunction that we're at the midpoint of now, and then December 2020 was when, and that's a 9-year cycle, and then December of 2020 is when we had the conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn that we're at the first quarter square of now. So 2020 in a nutshell is basically relevant as we're moving through. I mean, it could be for a million different reasons, but there is something about a connection to that period of time that may have extra relevance this week. And with Chiron stationing direct coming up here on the 29th, right after making this like very long opposition to the black moon moves pretty slowly and Chiron is stationing. So this is just like a transit that's just kind of been lingering since last week. And with Chiron stationing direct later this week, it's also about like the lessons that we've learned. There may have been throughout Chiron's retrograde process over this past couple of months, we really may have been dealing with some old issues or some things from the past coming back up, some karmic baggage that we've been suffering with or working through, maybe some like health issues also, or just some generalized like emphasis on health, healing, well-being, changing our lifestyle or something, like making adjustments to the way that we're living our life to promote a sense of like health and well-being or something somehow. This is also very financial. Chiron has a lot to do with like money and wealth and resources and assets and stuff like that. So there could be a financial element of that also. But by the time that we get to the end of the week, something about lessons learned could also hold some extra relevance, okay? Now, we know that we have Jupiter and Saturn in their square this week, but another transit that we have going on this week, the 26th and the 27th specifically, is going to be emphasizing that, and that is Mercury's presence right now in Sagittarius and a mutual reception and opposition with Jupiter, and therefore also a square to Saturn. So we're going to have Mercury, the messenger planet, what we're talking about, what we're thinking about, what we're focused on, what's on our mind, right there in the Jupiter-Saturn situation. We've actually got a T-square going on, if we want to look at it that way, between Mercury and Jupiter in opposition and in square to Saturn. And this is exact. So, you know, it's going like whatever the Jupiter-Saturn situation, and I'll talk a lot more about this energy as we get towards the end of the report today, but whatever that it might be triggering or bringing up for us or just portraying itself as in terms of what we're dealing with right now, it's likely to be very much like on our mind or a topic of conversation as well, or we're like receiving information about it. There could really be some information from the past that is coming back somehow right now as well that plays into perhaps whatever's going on as a result of this phase of the transit or the cycle between Jupiter and Saturn coming to fruition. Like we could be finding out stuff now, for example, that pertains to 2020 or something, when that initial transit happened, that makes a lot of things make sense. Like this could be a period of time where you're gaining a missing piece of a puzzle, or like, you know, as a metaphor for like a missing piece of information or perspective or something. Like you may be finding something out somehow that makes things that happened back in 2020 make more sense, or at least like we can see or understand the purpose for them, perhaps in the context of like what it is that we're finding out about or what is unfolding or coming to pass right now. Like things from the past may be making more sense because of whatever we have going on right now. So I find it fascinating that Mercury is so tied into all of this as well. And also we have a Venus-Uranus square that is happening this week as well. It's a very squarey week out there, you guys. And squares bring tension, they bring, you know, conflict. There could be a sense of anxiety, like nervous tension. We could feel like every time we turn around, there's some like block or obstruction or resistance to something. It could just be more of a conflict-oriented week. We could feel like everything is just requiring like a bit more effort to get things done. And I mean, again, though, it's very karmic in nature, and I just feel like it's kind of talking about realizing that we're not going to be doing something the same way going forward. Venus and Uranus in a square on the 28th, that's sudden change, but they're in mutual reception right now. Uranus in the sign of Aquarius ruled by, no, Venus in the sign of Aquarius ruled by Uranus. Uranus in the sign of Taurus ruled by Venus. The desire for change and coming to a point where we're like not willing to submit to something, or we're not willing to participate in something, or we're not keeping the peace anymore. Venus and Uranus in square disrupts the peace, and we're not willing to maintain the status quo. We're not willing to settle for anything that is like out of alignment with what it is that we really truly like want and desire. We're not interested in the facade, you know, we're not interested in like the surface level of things. We want something real, we want something deep, we want something that is like mentally stimulating and it feels like it really fits us and is like a true reflection of like our resonance, our vibe, who we really truly authentically are. And like if it's not that, or if it is not also like supporting us in our growth or in our ability to like develop into our potential and stuff like that, we're just not going to be interested in it. A lot of people are not going to be doing it anymore. They're just not going to be having it. So that in a nutshell, you put that all together, weave it all together, that's basically where we're at this week. We are being urged to grow and expand and move forward, but at the expense of these aspects, these old aspects perhaps of ourselves and our lives that just do not align with this authentic purpose, authentic truth, authentic potential that we can't pull ourselves away from right now. No matter how much we may want something, if the version of it that we chose for ourselves is not in alignment with the divine image or the divine vision of what universe would have us have at this point in time, you know what I mean? Like there's just, we're not going to be able to hold on to it no matter how hard we try to grasp it. Anything inauthentic is not going to be supported. That is just all this 0-degree Aquarius action. I'm telling you guys, you know, try as you might, it will be in vain at the end of the day. But also we will come to discover that what we were forced to move on from and let go of throughout this period of time, perhaps beginning back in 2020, is actually the best thing that ever happened to us. We're going to find that these changes were ultimately for the best in some level. We needed it. Again, it's some related to like soul growth, karmic evolution, the breaking or severing of karmic cycles and like generational like curses and stuff like that. We are actually energetically, we're transitioning to the age of Aquarius, you guys. So energetically, we are establishing the new legacies that will define the way that things unfold over the course actually of this next 2,000 years, because this is an age that we are moving into, approaching and anchoring right now as well, as these vibrational changes take place, microcosm, macrocosm, you know, as above, so below. We are moving into new planetary codes and activations, and as a result of that, we are having to adjust our vibrations individually. As a result of that, we are attracting and repelling much different things perhaps than we have until this point in our lives, and we're going to start seeing those changes demonstrably going on if we haven't already. But again, something about the year 2020 as a seed or an origin point for what is playing out now, important, and also what is playing out now as kind of a seed or an origin point for that which will continue to develop and unfold over the course of this next 5 years. Saturn square Jupiter, this is not a bad energy. It may be a bit of a challenge or difficult. It might be testing us, but really it's about making wise choices and decisions that will pay off in the long run based on the experience that we've gained and the wisdom that we've arrived at throughout whatever lessons life has presented us with since this new phase of growth started again 5 years ago, almost now, back in 24 years ago, back in 2020. So divine intervention, divine alignment, divine timing, synchronicity, however you want to look at it, whatever you want to call it, things happening now are happening for a specific reason at this time in that place. There's a purpose behind it. Even if we can't necessarily discern that in the moment, it could be another one of those things where what's happening now doesn't make sense to us for another 5 years, just as we may be finally gaining some missing insight in terms of things that happened 5 years ago. So we should try not to necessarily judge the circumstances too much as we're moving through this energy, but with the sun squaring the nodes of the moon while this is happening also, and the Venus-Uranus square, and even the Black Moon Chiron situation with the moon activating the Black Moon in Chiron, all of that has to do with, on some level, karmic release being indicated. And Saturn is also a planet ruling karma, and of course Jupiter is truth and expansion. This is also definitely, probably, as I said, going to be altering belief systems and ideas and our understandings about things moving forward. I do think, as I mentioned earlier, people are going to be emotionally struggling this week with just knowing that they're going to need to let go of something. And with the Black Moon energy that is more prominent and dominant Monday and Tuesday as well, being joined by the moon on Christmas Eve, honestly, people could just be more easily triggered than normal. There could be some hurt feelings going on. There could be some like meltdowns at the party. And a lot of this is probably going to lead to permanent relationship changes the way that this is set up. I am not the most happy to have this outlook for moving through our most wonderful time of the year. But honestly, it just is what it is. I'm not the most great at sugarcoating things as a general rule. And I mean, I will tell you, it's all about our choices right now though. And that's also coming out in like the tarot reading that we have. And it's just very, very apparent by the nature of the Gemini, Jupiter, Mercury, Sagittarius, the square that we have in Saturn and Pisces. Optimism is a choice in this energy. It might not feel like it, but it actually is, okay? And our attitude and our mindset and what we are choosing to focus on with Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury all in a T-square over the holidays this year, we do have power that comes through our choice in terms of how we want to frame things mentally, how we want to see things, how we want to allow things to get to us, what we want to take personal responsibility for, what we want to kind of contain, and what we want to allow to come out of us, all right? And proceeding with a maybe heightened measure of compassion, both for like others and ourselves, is probably going to be some of our best advice, okay, as we do move forward through this energy. But, I want to kind of say that as well. People are probably going to be seeing things through a bit of their more like darker lenses of reality, at least through Tuesday, because this Black Moon Chiron opposition is again being exactly activated by the moon, and just with all these squares going on all week, like people could just kind of be over it and not trying to hide it anymore, because that's another dimension of this. Like, where in the past people may always have put on like a happy face, or just kind of brush things under the rug, or did anything possible not to like make waves or rock the boat or disturb the peace in any type of way. Like, we just don't have that same level of like will or motivation to do that anymore. Like, it's just not worth it at this point. In fact, actually, it seems with Chiron in the sign of Aries and the North Node in the sign of Aries and the trine to Mars right now as well, who is retrograding through the sign of Leo, like standing in our power, you know what I mean? Like, doing what is in our best interest, even if it's contrary to the group need or the cohesion or the tradition or something like that, is probably going to seem like it's more worth it than hanging on to or trying to maintain any like facade that like everything's okay in this energy. So that could be another reason why people are kind of just like giving fewer F's maybe this year about holding it all together, okay? But again, like, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how we should be behaving and that's what we should be doing. I feel whenever we've got strong Saturn energy that's present, as I generally say, self-discipline okay? Self-control, especially with Saturn in this emotional sign of Pisces, like, and we have the Queen of Cups coming out with the Hermit. It's not even tarot time yet, but we've literally got Saturn and the Queen of Cups, Saturn and Pisces coming out together in our tarot reading for today, which we will get more into, of course, after I get done with all of this astrology, which I still have like 2 or 3 more pages left in my notebook to get through. But our ability to like regulate our emotions and maintain a sense of emotional self-control and emotional maturity in the context of other people not doing that or projecting on us or just totally losing it. That is the, I think, the most productive, we could say, approach to navigating whatever this is like. But it won't necessarily be the easiest approach, okay? But it's weird because we have another transit that's like going on in the midst of all of this as well. I've talked a lot about the more like darker side of the way that energy could be going as we move through the introduction of our week this week. But, and I've been talking about this as well, we do have this like lingering saving grace out there, which is this trine happening between Venus and Jupiter. And wouldn't you know, the moon transiting through the sign of Libra on Tuesday, while it is conjoining the black moon and setting off all of that angst that could be coming through this black moon Chiron opposition that we still have going on. The moon in Libra, ruled by Venus, in that very same location is also setting up a grand air trine between Venus and Aquarius and Jupiter and Gemini. So while we have the black moon really being triggered and set off by the Chiron black moon activation exact opposition, that very same lunar placement is also activating a grand air trine featuring Venus and Jupiter, which is the most lovely. Like, this is absolutely beautiful energy for any type of social gathering or get together or like networking, gift giving, abundance, joy, like all the happiest, all the best, all the most beautiful comes, especially when in terms of like our attitude and our ideas and like how we're feeling about things and the nature of our conversations and stuff. When we have a grand air trine going on between even the moon in Libra, ruled by Venus, trining Jupiter. It's a very expansive, like good news, positive attitude. So it's really weird how actually the moon in Libra is setting off so hard the black moon energy, Chiron energy, but also at the exact same point in time, creating this grand air trine, which is essentially like the polarly opposite energy. So it's like, on one hand, maybe our own behavior or the behavior of other people is like triggering us in a way that is drastically changing our mind or altering what we do and don't want, or are and are not attracted to, or are and are not willing to associate with, and just like are or are not going to be participating with anymore. Or maybe it could be like the events and everything are going over lovely, but for some reason there's just a topic of conversation or an emphasis or a theme involved somehow having to do with like the darker topics for some reason, past pain, wounding, toxic behavior, addictions, something like that. I don't know, intermingling or interwoven in the celebration somehow. So I don't know. It's like these two things are connected and related. Like, there are these wonderful social events going on, but for some reason there is also the presence of the dark side of things, trauma, wounding, also like fears, worries, insecurities, doubts, or just issues going on in the context of interpersonal dynamics, relationship dynamics, financial stuff. I don't know, you guys, but I think in a way, whatever's going on this week is going to become some type of big catalyst of change that may play itself out between now and June. But for some reason, you know, whatever could be coming up now, contributing to some forward progress or like what we're going to build or grow next come this summer. So that's basically the outline for the week, what I think that we are generally looking at as we move into Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, the moon's going to leave Libra, enter Scorpio, where it will square Pluto. So there could still honestly be some intensity that's going on for Christmas Day on Wednesday, and with Mercury also in this square between Jupiter and Saturn right now, it could bring up arguments and disputes. We also, believe it or not, on Monday have the Sabian symbol, the position of the Earth at 4 degrees of Cancer, a cat arguing with a mouse. So I feel like there could be some just like argumentative, like back and forth type of stuff going on where no one is going to win this battle. You know what I mean? Like there's not going to be a clear victor, but people could just be kind of going at it because of their own emotional issues going on. So there's that. And again, like you can choose not to get pulled into that. You can choose to stay on the outskirts of that and put your respect for yourself and your own like emotional balance and stuff before the need to put anyone in their place or tell anyone they're wrong or prove yourself to anybody. You know what I mean? Like sometimes our own internal sense of emotional peace and balance is far more valuable than being right in any like needless dispute that could be going on out there, because you're really not going to change anybody's mind anyways at this point in time at the end of the day. And that's another part of the Saturn Jupiter transit that I'm going to get to in a little while once I get to that part of my notes finally where I'm actually talking about that. But I've been talking about this for the past couple weeks as well. Like this is not real great energy where you should be like seeking answers externally necessarily. The advice you get from others is likely to be less valuable than the insight that you can glean through like introspection, self-analysis. Again, like maybe going back over some of the lessons from the past and looking at them from a new light maybe, and kind of reconfiguring some things in your mind. Okay. So, yeah, just not a great time to needlessly argue for no real reason, okay? But we do still have Mercury and Jupiter in a mutual reception. Although they are both in their sign of detriment, this is drastically lessened because of the mutual reception. Mercury and Jupiter in opposition. The bright side is there, you guys, if we choose to see it. The holiday spirit is there, you guys, like if we choose to be it. So when we've got all this Gemini, Mercury, Saturn energy going on, it really is what we choose. Okay, what we choose to look at, what we choose to focus on, and what we choose to allow to motivate us emotionally, all right? So lastly, now that we've made it to this point, and we'll talk more on Wednesday, there will be a Christmas report. I will have a new video out for you guys on Christmas about the energy of that day, and we'll get much more into the Wednesday energy when we get there. But I do want to now go into some more detail, as I've been alluding to this entire report so far, about this specific aspect, the square between Jupiter and Saturn, what you may experience as we move through this energy. Maybe you've already started to feel it. And again, like it is because of everything that we've already been moving through and everything that we have kind of withstanding energetically right now. It is kind of just like piling on a lot of that. It's not really introducing any new themes. However, it's emphasizing to a much even greater degree, perhaps, some of these pre-existing themes and conditions that have already been going on. And for the millionth time, remember, this is related to August and it's related to next June as well. And it's all about corrections. Generalized collective period of corrections is going on right now and is being like really like hammered down by the presence of this square, especially with Jupiter retrograde right now. The reason why we're having 3 hits of this energy is because Jupiter went retrograde in a proximity to Saturn. So Jupiter made the square to Saturn, stationed retrograde, backed up, made the square again. Saturn was also going retrograde. Jupiter will go direct. They'll both be direct, and Jupiter will finally make his way to square with Saturn again, except the third square between these planets will be in Aries and Cancer, not in Gemini and Pisces as the first 2 were. So clear progress is going to be made by the time that we get to this third one. Things are going to change radically, but and with Jupiter retrograde right now for the second hit, this is a period of corrections. Mars is retrograde, Uranus is retrograde, Mercury also was retrograde until recently. Things are being realigned, reconfigured, rebuilt, restructured, reorganized, reprogrammed. The things that we maybe had built or brought to a certain point may be requiring adjustments right now. And universe is requiring us to separate ourselves I think, from anything that essentially is just like doing us no good anymore, anything that is interfering with our growth, anything that is blocking our ability to align with our potential or to make more of ourselves or to take better care of ourselves somehow, or to expand in any type of way. We are, and it's everything. It's the sun squaring the nodes, it's the black moon Chiron situation, it's the Venus Uranus situation, it's also, of course, the T-square that we've got going on with Mercury. It's just any way you want to slice it, requiring us to change our standards, to change our behavior, to change our values, to change our morals. Anything that we're finding is just like not appropriate anymore in the context of who we're becoming now and what we cannot continue to be. If we're going to be that, is what we've got to cut loose in this energy. It may also like give this like feeling of kind of realigning our sense of duty or a responsibility with what is more practical or realistic somehow. It could be like bringing us down to earth in terms of what is actually possible, and it could be presenting a lot of opportunities as well. There could definitely be career changes or job changes that are going on right now as a result of a new opportunity coming in. We should take opportunities when we're in this type of energy. Not only do they, broaden our purview of life and experience and understanding when we've got a Jupiterian influence that expands our sign of Gemini mind and vision coming in right now, but they also have a tendency of paying off, being successful in the long run. But don't be hasty to make choices and decisions about things. There needs to be a level of care and consideration and critical thinking, like foresight, that is put into our decision-making processes. But if we are doing that, if we are doing the work, if we are slowing down, if we are being deliberate, if we are analyzing the facts and the data and the information and making like informed, educated, wise decisions, especially if there's an element of like wisdom gained through past experiences that we're applying into our decision-making processes somehow, they are likely to pay off for the best, especially come this upcoming summer when things somehow are going to change and start really moving forward in some way, depending on however this energy is playing itself out for you out there. So the challenge here, you guys, or the compromise rather, is to make gains, increase, and go forward in some areas, but to cut back or to just cut off the fat or the loose ends or something in other areas. We are expanding through actually what we are contracting or what we are releasing when we have a Jupiter-Saturn square. It's predominantly a mental energy and an emotional energy when we've got the signs Gemini and Pisces involved here. Restlessness and uncertainty could for sure come with this. The feeling maybe also that like something is wrong or something's out of place, but not knowing necessarily what that is. And again, best advice for when we're dealing with energy like this generally, and Mars is retrograde right now, which is giving a lot of the same indications. Do not rush, slow down, take your time. This transit does generally give us enough time to make the careful observations that we need to in order to make a good decision or to make the right choice or decision. So don't try to just, move forward before you really feel like you've considered everything adequately. It is a critical time, but it is not a bad time. It's just that the things that are happening now, what we're doing, the choices that we're making, they do have a greater significance in terms of that future course of events that has yet to unfold than maybe they do under other energetic circumstances. What we do now will have larger impacts on the future than, just like our standard choices and decisions might. Therefore, you guys, patience while you find the right solution is going to work out in your favor here. Also, there's a need to maybe pay some special attention to the financial element of things. There's, of course, also a large financial emphasis going on between like all the Libra activations. Just there is a lot of relationship and money oriented stuff that is all over the charts generally for right now. But with this specific aspect, the square between Jupiter and Saturn, there can be a tendency to resent the limitations that finances can oppose and therefore maybe act a bit impulsively as if there are no limitations, just kind of like I don't know, trying to ignore them altogether, especially also with the Venus-Uranus mutual reception and square. That could be kind of like a reckless regard for spending and stuff like that, that sets us up for more lack than gain as we move through this. So maybe something to keep in mind as well. And also, as I mentioned, career changes, new offers, new opportunities, take them. They will likely be successful, or at least they will expand your life in some way, or your ideas or your beliefs about what is and isn't possible for you somehow. So the main challenge here, you guys, is to overcome limitations through the application of what we've learned up until this point. Wise choices and decisions to fix, adjust, or change things are going to pay off probably pretty bigly moving forward into the summer. The Sabian symbols that we have involved, Saturn and Jupiter are coming into their square at 14 degrees of Pisces and Gemini. So we will actually be looking at the Sabian symbol for 15 degrees of Pisces and Gemini, because when we're reading the symbolism, we round up a degree. We read the incoming wave of energy, not the energy that is moving out and dissipating. So if we're looking at 14 degrees and something minutes of the signs of Gemini and Pisces, we're going to read the 15 degree, that the symbol that would be associated with that would be called 15 degrees. And Jupiter is at 15 Gemini, two Dutch children talking and studying their lessons, and Saturn is at 15 Pisces, an officer drilling his men in a simulated attack. So learning and preparation, obviously, very much indicated through the symbolism of the placements of these planets as they hit their square. But there also could be like simulated things that are going on, being presented, being projected. I don't know. But anyways, that may apply somehow in the context of whatever you are perceiving in terms of the way that this Jupiter-Saturn square is impacting your life. So that's what I have to say, you guys, about the astrology. Let's talk about the tarot now for a second. I know I already talked about this a little bit earlier, but the two cards that we had coming out today were the Queen of Cups and the Hermit. Saturn in the sign of Pisces. And then on the back of the deck, we have the Page of Pentacles. We can choose to see the bright side of things, you guys. We can choose to see the potential. We can choose to look at the opportunity, and we can choose to move through this through whatever we're, going through over the course of this week from a place of inner illumination and like emotional self-control, being in a sense of like emotional empowerment, because we are having some discipline in the way that we are allowing emotional energy to affect us right now, and also coming from a place of compassion, both, for ourselves and of course for others. But this is talking about being more withdrawn, maybe being a bit more introverted, okay, and really drawing on our own emotional strength as a source of comfort as we move through this. You may not be able to get the comfort or the nurturing or the compassion or just the general pleasantries to the same extent from other people in this energy, just because of the whole black moon situation with Chiron and the moon being there. Although with the grand air trine, it could be manifesting a different way. Again, those are very contradictory energies that are both simultaneously present as the moon transits the sign of Libra. With these two cards though coming out, I mean, the Hermit, this is about withdrawal, this is about isolation, this is about seeking enlightenment from within. The Queen of Cups is also about emotional self-empowerment. So the more self-disciplined we can be in the context of emotional energy, the more internal power we can draw from our ability not to be maybe emotionally impacted by all the craziness that's going on out there. Perhaps the more that we can kind of like keep our eye on the prize or the potential or the opportunity, or choosing to see the bright side of things, as I said, instead of maybe getting pulled so much down into the other ways that this emotional energy could be manifesting as we go through this week. So that's what I have to say about that, you guys. We're going to get a synchronicity card now. God, Spirit, Universe, what is one additional piece of guidance or advice that we can use, or that we should use as we move through the week? What should we keep in mind so that we have the most lovely, enjoyable holiday celebrations and just as good of a week as possible? Our card, you guys, it says God's the boss. So there you have it. All right, surrendering to the higher power. Who then is that faithful and wise steward? Luke 12:42. You must do your job joyously and faithfully in the knowledge that God is your boss. Your subconscious will then respond and promote you and remove obstacles to your success. Have a constructive vision. Be faithful to your vision. Show respect for authority, and you will be prospered along all lines. So if you were looking for the key to success this week, you guys, if you were wondering what specifically can be done to ensure that you're successful and that you prosper along all lines, have a constructive vision, be faithful to your vision, show respect for authority, and things are probably going to work out well. So that's what I have to say, you guys. Message from the stars, message from the cards, message of the times generally. Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would be interested in this type of astrology content as well. Leave me comments. I'm so grateful for your presence here. I really appreciate you guys. When you let me know what's going on with you out there, if you're having experiences that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, that is very valuable, very meaningful to me. Thank you guys so much again. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group where I post images of those boards. That is linked in my description box below, and come back with me on Wednesday for our Christmas reading, you guys. I will be here to talk about all of the ongoings of the energy of that day. So you should be here too if you have a minute. If you don't, that's totally fine. It'll be out forever after that if you want to catch back up or whatever. Anyways, I will see you next time. Wishing you guys a really, really beautiful start to your week, beautiful holidays, beautiful everything that you've got going on out there. And I will see you next time. Until then, bye guys.